Hi, today we're going to talk about 10 top tips to improve your street photography.
I would say we can start from some almost little projects.
Yeah,
and then,
good idea.
Things that you can look for shooting.
I think projects are really important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's say one that most people tend to advise beginners to try is the one camera, one lens, at least for a period. Let's say at least for a month. Just choose one camera, one lens. If you have a zoom lens, choose a focal length.
Good idea.
Set it there. Put a little bit of gaffer tape on the lens so you can't move the zoom, and get used to that field of view, and that can really help.
Absolutely, and I think you'll find as you go on, you'll probably get used to that one lens. I mean, like yourself, I only use really 35mm.
And I use almost exclusively 50.
And that goes for shooting the street, or even professional sort of paid for jobs. I think 90% of the stuff is done on a 35mm still. So once you get to use it and you get to know it, you'll be surprised how much you can get with that one lens. And I think
how much faster you shoot.
Oh, totally.
Because you already put yourself in the right place at the right distance before even taking the camera to your eye. And
because the other thing, and I'm talking from an age point of view, because I'm a lot older than yourself, Flavio. You may have noticed.
I did.
But when we started, every camera just had a 50mm lens on.
Yeah.
And we still used to get the shot, and we never even thought of using a zoom lens.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and just try it. You'll be amazed what you can get.
Absolutely. And on a similar note, try to return to the same spot, same street, or the same corner. Try to shoot that place over and over again for, a month or 3 months or whatever it is, even a year. But try to just return to the place and work the area, and you'll see that better and better pictures will come up.
I think it's a really good tip and really good idea, because also you can find that place and you can say, you know what, it doesn't look quite right in this light, but you make a mental note of it and you go back, and then you go back and back again,
and you really learn the place. Another place that probably doesn't even depend on how big your town is, how many people there are there. Shooting in a cafe, it's a great way to learn to see people, the people watching, trying to learn the moments, their gestures, etc.
Sure.
And then shooting in a cafe, it can be a good portfolio to get.
I actually think you could even go into a cafe, as we all go there, with our other halves, and when you all go there by yourself and just watch. Yeah. And you'd be amazed at how much people communicate, or then they're looking at each other and they're using their hands to communicate, and then they're looking at each other with their eyes, and then they look away from each other. You'd be surprised how much people don't look at each other during a 10 or 15 minute conversation. Yeah. And just observe, and almost just, I've done it many times, and you're just there, and when the moment happens, just
in your head, click.
Yeah, click.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you'll see it come together.
And it's a very good visual exercise. It's almost like exercising away from the instrument, but you're mentally exercising yourself. And at the end of the day, the camera is just the extra thing, is the click and the framing, etc. But your timing, your eye, your composition should be done over and over again.
Absolutely. It's practice, practice, and you click that button at the decisive moment. Absolutely. And the moment is one of the big things in photography.
And if you practiced it in your mind, it's going to be easier.
Absolutely.
Then another great place to learn, especially if you live in small towns and where you rarely have big crowds, or places where you feel less conspicuous, is shooting in festivals, fun fairs, or town markets. And those are good places to find your feet in starting to be unobtrusive and starting to learn to shoot people. I
think this time of year it's actually easier, I think, than doing the cafes. I think this is probably the easiest thing to go out and get great pictures and do a little project about whatever it is, a fun fair, dog show, whatever, a food festival. There's so much on at the moment. and they're out there. Just look in the just Google it, craft fairs near me or what's on today sort of thing, and you'll find all these little things, and they are out there.
Absolutely. At this point, we can talk about some subjects, some things that a street photographer can look for.
So when you're at the fair, or when you're at the dog show, or when you're at the festival, etc.
Yes, or even just in town. So one thing that would be interesting is reflections. Can be windows, puddles, water in general, and probably at a fun fair is going to be less easy, or a craft show, but just looking for these things.
I think they're there. I think there's glossy surfaces there, or fun fairs. There's definitely sort of house of mirrors, I think.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Or these funny mirrors, that we all used to stand in and look slimmer maybe in the day.
Yeah, maybe.
So look out for things like mirrors. But I think it's really important when you're taking pictures, reflections and mirrors. Number one, obviously, you don't want yourself in there. So you always need to shoot these things off at an angle. And you want to make sure that the subject you're shooting is in there, but then also in the frame somewhere else generally.
Yes.
So you need the same person it twice. It's not just a case of taking a picture in the mirror, because it doesn't work. The whole idea of this is that you're almost creating two layers, because you're going to have something a little nearer to you and then something in the mirror.
Absolutely.
And you need that person maybe looking in the mirror or doing something.
Yeah.
So again, it's something you have to sit there and wait. The background is now your mirror, and you just wait for the right moment to happen. And when it happens,
absolutely, and
far
you can
away.
stay there and work your shot for a while.
Absolutely,
and then choose another spot with another kind of reflection, and keep on working on this. It can really yield really nice images.
I think you can be quite unobtrusive when shooting into a mirror, because people don't really realise what you're doing. They think you're shooting somewhere else, and they don't realise that you're actually photographing them, because you're
pointing your camera away
in a different angle. Yeah,
absolutely, yes. Another thing to look for can be silhouettes.
Yep.
And trying to make use of the silhouettes in an intelligent way, not just a random silhouette. Try to find a way to work your shot with the silhouettes. You will have to shoot probably against the sun or against a very bright background.
It's not the sort of thing you're going to find in a cafe, for example.
No, unless you shoot out of the window.
Of course.
But
and then even at fun fairs and festivals, silhouettes are probably more difficult to come by, I think.
Yes.
Certainly if you're doing some street photography down at the seaside, like places like Blackpool, Brighton, etc., great opportunity to do silhouettes.
Yeah.
One of my favourite things was always, to tell people to get low, put their heads in the sky, so that you've got the bright sky, and then you will automatically get the silhouette. You're going to have to shoot manually probably here, or certainly
compensate the exposure down.
Compensation.
Conversations. It's a very good thing when you look around. That can be in the cafe, or it can be in the street, or wherever it is. Observing conversations and trying to capture those moments in the conversation. What we have been talking about already, eye contact, direct interaction during these conversations, not just people looking away from each other.
No, it's really important. I think it's this is the big differentiation between video and still photography. Is, a videographer can get away with it because if you're talking away and you look over there, then you look over wherever. A video, we don't mind it. It's
we see the dynamics of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But in a photograph where you're capturing one frame that's got to tell a story, you absolutely need that eye contact, because if you don't, it almost looks like you're disinterested in that person. So if you're looking at me and I'm looking over there, it almost looks like I don't care what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if you've got that eye contact, that's level one. And then if there's something happening with the hands or the body language, it's even better. So if I'm sort of going like that and you're doing something with your hands and there's the eye contact, bang. And that's the sort of thing you can also just go and practice when you're sitting in a cafe by yourself. Absolutely. You'll see those moments and go, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot in the rain. shooting in the rain can be a really good way of getting different shots.
Yep.
You can be under an awning, you can be taking cover somewhere, or you can just shoot with your umbrella on. If you have a good camera that has a good weather sealing and it's not pouring, you can shoot without a problem with a little bit of a drizzle. But it can yield different images, and you have reflections on the ground.
Absolutely.
You have lights that can give a really interesting background and atmosphere to work with.
Yeah, you get really dramatic pictures in the rain.
Yeah.
You can slow the shutter speed down a little bit to make the raindrops appear a little bit longer.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my very favourite shots earlier, Trent Park, the front cover of his book Dream Life. It's kind of an iconic image. You know, it's someone walking in the rain, and you got that rain coming down. It's a very moody shot, and I'm sure Trent is almost standing in the shadows, keeping himself dry, and the person didn't even know he was there. But he's got an amazing photograph there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the thing, just try it. Just get out when it's raining, find a way to get yourself in a good spot, and you'll get good images. Dogs and owners, trying to get that association, trying to get that. Very often it's interesting to see how much of an association there is between the dog and the owner.
I totally agree with you. And you also, I've got a good friend who's done a big project on dogs and their owners. Over many, many years, he's been on a few of the courses, but you know, he almost uses it as you can go up and talk to someone, and you do their portrait in a natural environment if you want to do that as well, and you want to kind of get over that confidence thing. You know, go and talk to someone with a dog, or just stroke the dog or whatever, and you'd be amazed. People will talk to you, and then just say, "Do you mind if I take a picture of you both?"
Yeah.
And you know, go back, step back, and do it in the environment. And I know Bruce has got, I think he's got even made a little book with all these images in it, and there's some fascinating work in there.
Yeah, and all these things that we are talking about can become little projects, and can become actually, you can output them as a little book or as a little portfolio. And this is an interesting way to drive yourself towards completing this kind of project.
Because the master of these shots is Elliot Irwin.
Yeah.
So you know, there's just some amazing pictures of owners and their dogs from quirky angles, little juxtapositions. And we'll put a few there so you can kind of see what we mean. But you know, if you've not come across Elliot Irwin, go and check his pictures out, because they're amazing.
Poker hands. So we've published a video a short time ago about poker hands and associating them with, let's say, what you see in the shot, and trying to get a kind of a value of the shot and a description of what you're seeing. So we've been talking about, in this case, we would talk about two pairs, we are talking about a three, we're talking about a full house. And these are ways of looking for a kind of shot, having in mind what you want to look for. So look, there is a three, and you just try to get the three in a certain way.
I mean, this last thing really is a bit of fun. You know, when you're out with a colleague or a friend, or even when you're out by yourself, and just, you're right, look, there's a pair over there. Yeah. Two people, might be two people in red and two people in yellow, might be two couples, lots of two people with two dogs.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It needs to be, you know, then you need to start looking at the composition once you've spotted the potential. Same with a group of three, or obviously like the full house, a group of three and a group of two.
Absolutely, yeah. And I would keep it simple to start with. You know, the full house is already a good challenge to get by keeping it at a pair or two pairs or a three. It's a very good way to keep the interest up and having a focus to look for. And I'd say, to end this, we already are at 10 different things to look for.
Yeah, that's great.
I would say, let's look at a couple of things that you need to pay attention to. Try to avoid doing uninteresting shots, really uninteresting shots. It's the typical smoker by himself, not doing much else than just smoking a cigarette, unless there is a very dramatic smoke or something really peculiar. The single person or two people walking that are random passers-by with no interest,
or two people walking away from you with their backs
things like these, or subjects that are too tiny in the frame to actually see that they are the subjects
There's
of your
no
picture.
impact or no...
There's no impact. Right?
Exactly.
Just because your subject is in the picture doesn't make the picture about
No,
the subject. So
it's going back to those things, shoot people from the front. That saying we use like the poker hands, show me the nose.
Show me the nose, yes.
Yeah.
And let's say that to make it a bit more clear in a single sentence is, let's say, get something interesting in the shot. If you were to say, hey, look, to your friend or partner, would that be worth their attention? Ask yourself that question. If it's worth the attention of somebody else, you just call them and say, hey, look, then that's a picture worth shooting.
Sure.
Yeah. So, otherwise, it might not be a great picture.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today. Hope you got something from it. And if you have, big thumbs up, subscribe, and send us some comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we look forward to seeing you real soon on the next episode. It's goodbye from Mark and
Flavio. Goodbye.
Bye.